My father, his role within construction, he built Sears Tower, Renaissance Tower, Ambassador Bridge, Detroit Tiger Stadium. He was very much so a hard worker. I remember him when I was growing up, he would leave in the morning before we even got up, and then at night he would come home and you'd see his boots by the door. My mother, similar, worked multiple jobs. Worked within General Motors for the majority of her career, but my mother always opened her doors, as did my grandmother. And so we come from an environment within our household where everybody was always welcome. I would bring people to sleep on my mom's couch and help them from a standpoint if they were homeless or they were trying to graduate high school. Parents, just weren't there to support. And so I got that honestly from my mother and my grandmother. They both had great faith, but just great people of service that always wanted to open the doors to the community. In my bones and in my roots, culturally, Lincoln Community Center was always very important to me. I grew up going to what would have been like pre-K or kindergarten prep there. I learned how to swim in the pool there. Grew up playing basketball with Mr. Hughes at the age of probably kindergarten. So the Lincoln Community Center was originally established as Lincoln Community Hall in 1865. And if you look at the history timeline that we organized and put together, that's extremely accurate. And that prior to it becoming a community center, it was a one-room schoolhouse that wasn't able to be named a school because of prior to emancipation, slaves couldn't teach each other to read and write. So the foundation and roots of education have been in that building for over 157 years. Our history and roots as we celebrate this 250 years, Lincoln Community Center can celebrate 160 plus years of keeping our doors open, and the only time we closed was briefly during the Great Depression. So there was really four different, if you will, organizations that made this possible between city, Mr. Spencer and his wife Caroline, and the Spencer Trust for Negroes, the schools, and then obviously the Troy Foundation, the Community Chest. And so it's a true partnership of what years ago could have happened to be able to provide an opportunity for Negroes and coloreds that's still alive today. My real calling for the Lincoln Center was that it was in a tough spot. I was volunteering, running a basketball league and a football camp there. And so I got involved, and one of the board members that at the time had asked me, hey, would you consider being the executive director? And so I thought about it, prayed about it, and I remember very humorously my father, who was getting dementia and Alzheimer's, he's like, are you joking? You really want to run this place? And he said, you went to go get a college degree to make $26,000 a year, and we're talking 2011. And I said, I think this is bigger than me as a calling. My number one goal was to bring education back to the forefront because I know that education is the key to success. And we were running that program with about 87 kids, 3 staff members, and about probably 10 to 12 volunteers at the time. We were able to get support from donors to buy a van, so we started picking up at the schools because we know transportation is an issue anytime you're dealing with poverty. We provide an after-school snack. We partnered with CrossFit to be able to have a kids CrossFit program. We partnered with Karen Perk to have an art program and Hainer Culture Center. We also partner with various other organizations to grow our after-school program to where whenever in the peak in terms of when I was running it, we had over 120 kids throughout that time, and we're very proud of that. As we spoke, education, I believe, is the key to success, but when you look at the common language across all different barriers, socioeconomically, you have the sports and the arts that you can communicate with regardless of what your socioeconomic status is. And so we felt it was very important as an umbrella under education to offer introduction to construction classes and wood carving classes, offering art classes throughout the year to allow kids to expand their brain in that arena. Music obviously is very important, and being able to work with musicians and performing arts throughout the school year at the Lincoln Center was always important. What I learned starting back in 2011 is that really from a leadership standpoint, when you as the leader lead by example and you're able to create proof within when people come in and say, wow, that place was clean, that place was safe, you can tell there's good leadership there, the staff is kind, I felt like they were very committed to customer service. Those things start to become very, very contagious. And so what I would say is honor to our staff and to the supporters that were able to really step in and volunteers and build that organization. But similar to this role here with the Kansas African American Museum, number one, I'm going to have integrity. I think that's the most important. Being able to financially and fiscally be trusted and have your stakeholders and donors believe in what you do and know you're going to do the right thing. The second piece, I think, is having servitude leadership within your tool, your bag, and not being able to be afraid of that and telling people what it looks like to not step over trash and to clean up and to be able to be there long nights before and after. And then I think the last piece is communication. As a leader, a lot of times we have a vision of what we want to do, but we're slow, or we struggle to communicate that to bring everybody along. And so I'm thankful to be in a role here at the museum where I see similarities to be able to use my skills that God has given me. And I thank God for the opportunity to be able to lead and to see the proof and the final product that we were able to put out at the Lincoln Community Center.